Now we're going to create a colored stone ring. We'll be using commands that we have looked at previously, and we'll also be using one or two more new commands. Okay, so let's get started. We'll create a new file. This time we're going to be using a basic open solitaire template. Okay, let's name our part. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is place our center stone. Okay, it is often best to work from our center stone out. So we'll come into our Parve tab, place stones. We're going to be placing an oval stone. Let's change our gemstone type to, let's say, green garnet, Savarite. We want this to be a 1 carat stone. So we're going to change our length to 8. Okay, and our width is going to automatically be scaled to 6 millimeters. Let's place it on this top center stone datum. Left click, confirm the operation. There we have our center stone. Okay, next up we're going to place a block. Come into our shape ribbon panel. Okay, we're going to be placing a block that we'll be using to cut away from to create our setting for the center stone. So we're going to snap this to our 12 o'clock datum here. Okay, the second point, I'm going to drag it out anywhere because we will be dimensioning it. Okay, so I want to give it a length. Okay, it doesn't matter the length actually because we will be removing from it. So I'm going to say just 15. Enter. Okay, the width. Now the width is, this is usually what I'd call the thickness, but we have got a rotated block here it seems. I'm going to bring this up to about 7 millimeters. We are going to be raising this block up after we have created it. Again, the height, let's say 8.5 millimeters. Okay, so let's confirm the operation, and here is our block. Now we're going to move this block. We're going to move it up. Go into our move command. Set our entity filter to shape. We want to be moving along a direction. Select our shape as our entity. Our direction is going to be the z-axis. Here we do not want an angle. And our distance, we want to raise it so it encompasses the whole gemstone. Let me move to a wireframe mode. Sorry, that was the isometric. I'm going to come into a front view. So I'm going to say around there is okay. Let's just give it a nice number, 2.75 millimeters. Confirm. There you go. Okay, now we're going to cut away from this block. Okay, now we're going to modify this block, give it some angle, a draft here, and then we'll cut away from it so that it can be used as a setting for our stone. So first of all, let's come into our draft command. We want to use the face draft option. We're going to draft these two faces. Okay, I'm going to have to left click in that field again, and we're going to draft them about their edges here. Okay, the draft angle. Let's come into a wireframe mode. Front view. Okay, so that looks about right. Well, let's have about 15-degree draft angle on those faces. Confirm the operation. Okay, we're forming a better shape here. Next up, we want to shell this shape. Go into our shell command, pick the shape. Okay, now I want to leave these faces open. Okay, so we will be shelling these other faces. Let's give it a shelling thickness, negative 1.25 millimeters. Okay, when we confirm the operation, we should have a thickness on the inside of the faces that we have not left open. Confirm. There you go. This distance should be 1.25 millimeters. Okay, you can see that we have formed a setting for the stone and not so many operations there. Okay, next up we're going to need to do an extrude cut because this setting is encroaching on our ring finger. Extrude, profile, the ring template, drag it out anywhere so long as it's greater than the length of this setting. Extrude cut, confirm. Okay, it's that easy. Save our work. Okay, now I want to offset this face. I want to bring it up a bit so that we have a slightly thicker area here. Now I know that this distance is 1.25 and I think I want to have a 1.25 millimeter thickness on here as well. Okay, so I'm going to use my inquire tools, my inquire distance tool, to inquire approximately that distance. Okay, so edge to edge, it looks like it's about 0.5 millimeters. You can see here, half a millimeter. Okay, so this means when I come into my face offset command, I want to offset this face, not by that giant number. Let's drop it down. Set our step size to 1/100 of a millimeter. Okay, so we had 0.5 of a millimeter here. We want 1.25. That means we need to offset it 0.75 millimeters. Confirm the operation. So there we had a use for our inquire tools. Okay, now, like I said, I want to cut away material here. So I'm going to insert a sketch on my side datum. Okay, use centroid defined by plane, make sure this is checked. In this case it won't matter, but just so that you get into the habit of using it, confirm the operation. Okay, now we're in the sketch level on our side plane, and I want to create a sketch so that some material is cut away like this. Okay, so I'll start off by creating a center line that we can use to reference. Okay, I want this to snap to the origin. Let's bring it up. It's going to have a horizontal constraint, a vertical constraint. That's what I want, but we're going to change it into construction geometry. Toggling the type so it's construction geometry. Now then, let's bring back our part environment. Okay, now I want to draw a second line. This is the line that we're going to be using to trim our setting to. Okay, so I'm just going to place it around the area I want it to be. We're going to come in and do an angular dimension so we can get it exact. Let's first of all right click, quick dimension, dimension the length of the line, just so it stays solid there, 18 millimeters. Okay, now we're going to dimension between, if I switch back, I'm going to dimension between these two lines. Okay, so I have control here. Let's bring back our part level. Now I can place it precisely where I want it. I'm going to change my step size to 0.1. Okay, so 1/10 of a degree. And I want this to come up pretty close to where my stone ends. Okay, so let's just say 17 degrees. Okay, because we'll be using this to perform a cut on our setting, and we're going to be cutting away this material. Okay, now I want to do the same to the other side, so let's just mirror this line across our middle reference line there. Okay, now you may remember me previously saying that we have a slight issue in that when we mirror a line that is snapped to a point, we lose that snap constraint. Okay, we lose that point-on-point constraint, like so. Okay, so we have to correct this by coming to our Constraints tab, Point Coincident Constraint, pick 2 points, confirm, and now that line, that mirrored line, is constrained to the origin. Okay, so let's set it to 17, okay. And now this is what we want. We're going to exit the sketch environment. We're going to perform an extrude cut with our profile being the sketch. Okay, let's just drag it out to any value with a symmetrical extrusion. Okay, we've got a remove already picked, but currently it is removing the wrong part of our setting. Okay, so we come into our flip face direction. Left click to flip that face direction. Now we are cutting away the correct part of our setting. Okay, so this preview seems fine to me. I'm going to confirm the operation, and there you go. We've cut away material from the setting. Okay, and that's coming along nicely now. We can now work on the ring shank. Okay, so we can use, if I save my work, our Jewelry Counter Design Studio to place very quickly a ring shank in here. Now I'm going to want to use an open ring shank, and I think I'm going to use an open square shank. So I left click in here. Okay, I can navigate to the ring shank I want. Okay, I know that I want a trapezoid ring shank. I know that I want a trapezoid ring shank. I left click on my top datum, confirm the operation, and there is my trapezoid ring shank thrown in on that top datum. Okay, it's looking pretty nice, but I want to tweak it a bit. I want to bring out the bottom to be wider. Okay, and I'll add a few more tweaks in as well. So remember, this ring shank, it is brought in as a component. Okay, we can enter in to the component environment by double clicking on it. We are then taken into that component history. We can look at the attributes. We can see its driving parameters. Okay, these are the things that we can change to modify this ring shank. Okay, but remember, we do not want to modify our ring shank from within its own driving parameters. Okay, we want to be making the modifications within our own part history. And to do that, we use our tweak tool. In our Tools and Cutters tab, tweak tool will allow us to tweak components. Okay, so we pick the component, we left click on the name to activate the driving parameters, and now we can make changes to the parameters of this component. Okay, so the top width, I want to bring it down. I want to bring my top width down to about 2.5 millimeters, and I want to increase the bottom width. Okay, so I'm kind of flipping them around here. Okay, I will also want to drop down the outside surface width. Okay, so this is the top width across here, but this is the outside surface width. So I want to bring this down for the top, but then increase it for the bottom. Okay, so we're just kind of changing our ring shank here, and that seems good to me. The final changes, the final change I will make will be to my opening. Okay, if we navigate into a wireframe display mode, we can see that our ring shank is ending here. Okay, now we want it to end inside of our stone setting. Okay, at the moment you can see it just popping out a bit here. So let's bring it in. The opening, let's drop it down, say 35 degrees. Okay, that's too much. About 40 degrees. It is ending within our setting. Okay, and that will work just fine for us. So let's confirm our operation. There we have our ring shank. Okay, it's still a component, so next up we're going to merge it. Merge. Pick our component. We'll be performing a merge as a base. Confirm the operation. And now we have two shapes. Save our work. Okay, so this ring is coming along now. We have our shank, we have our center gemstone and its setting. The final part is to create a channel on our sides, which we're going to pave with some stones. Okay, so we've seen in previous lessons how to create channels and that there are various methods for creating channels. Okay, for this design I'm going to show you yet another way to create a channel that we can place stones in. Okay, so I'm going to start off by inserting a sketch on my front datum plane. Now we used a method similar to this before, where I created a sketch that I then extruded and used an intersection curve with my ring shank to form some lines, some curves that we used to inlay to create the channel. Okay, we'll do a slightly different method this time, but I'm going to start off in the same way with a sketch that will define the boundaries of my channel. Okay, so we come into our draw. I'm going to start off by creating my center line as we did in the previous sketch. Okay, I'm going to straight away turn this to construction geometry. Okay, now I'm going to draw two more lines, each constrained to the center origin. Okay, and these lines I'm going to be using to define my channel. Okay, so my channel is going to run between these lines. Okay, so let's first of all give them dimension themselves. Okay, so this can be any value so long as it is greater than the outer radius of our ring shank. So let's just say 16 millimeters. Same for this one, 16 millimeters. Now I'm going to add a quick dimension, an angular dimension between our first 2-point line and our center line. Okay, now I'm going to want to bring this up closer to the top of the ring shank. Okay, so let's say we'll give it a bit more room, 20 degrees. Okay, so this will be the start of our channel. Okay, remember we're adding in these dimensions so that we can come into our sketch at any time and play around with our dimensions. Okay, and we can also add variables to these dimensions as we saw in the previous lesson to make that modification even easier. So now let's add another dimension, angular dimension between these two-point lines. Okay, so this line is going to define the end of my channel. So I want it to come down to around the 3 o'clock position, about 65 degrees. Okay. So here is the sketch. We'll exit back into our part level. I want to split this face along these points, along these lines here. Okay, we can use, in our freeform tab, our split with curves command. Okay, so the split with curves command prompts for the face and the curves that we want to split it with. Now the curves we could have gotten again by extruding the sketch and performing an intersection curve command. However, in this command we have the ability of a projection. Okay, so if we pick our sketch as the curves, we can then perform a bidirectional projection along the y-axis. Okay, so this is going to project our sketch in both directions along the y-axis, along the negative y-axis. Okay, so that we get a resultant curve at the intersection points of our sketch and this face. Okay, so it's pretty much like performing the intersection curve command. Okay, and then that will be the curve that we are using to split our face with. Confirm the operation. Okay, so I want to duplicate this surface. I want to make a copy of it. Okay, I could use my copy command to copy this face along a direction with a 0 distance. A better way to duplicate this face is to use our offset command. Okay, so we've seen offset commands in our shape and wireframe ribbon tabs. In our freeform tab, we can offset a face a particular distance. Okay, like so. But if I want to duplicate this face, I can simply offset at a distance of 0 millimeters. Okay, so the offset is not going to move it anywhere, so we will simply be creating a duplicate of that face. Now let me change the color of the offset to brown. Okay, if I confirm the operation, we can see that we now have our offset face, and we can distinguish it because we have changed the color. We've set it to be brown. If we were to use our copy command instead of the offset command to duplicate this face, we would not have been able to assign a color to our duplicated face simply because we are doing a direct copy of the initial face instead of an offset. Okay, so we're going to be using this duplicated face to create a shape that we'll be removing from our shank to form a channel. So let's blank out our ring shank. Okay, so now you can see our duplicated face here, our offset face. Okay, I shouldn't really say duplicated because we have given it a different color now. It does not have a duplicate color. Okay, so this is our new face. Okay, now it looks like here we've got this curve that has been brought in with our ring shank. So I'm just going to erase it. That's my erase command. I'm going to perform a chain pick by holding down the shift, middle click. Okay, and that's just erased that curve. Okay, now I'm going to shell this face. Okay, now the great thing about ZW is that it is what we call a hybrid modeling system. This means that we can use wireframe geometry, surfaces, we can use solids, we can use all of these things in one model to build features with. Okay, other programs may limit you to say just shapes to create our features with. But in ZW we can use surfaces as well as shapes. Okay, and that means we can perform, for example, our shell command on faces. And I want to give it an offset of negative 0.3. Okay, so this will be the depth of my channel. Okay, so there we did a shell of that face to create this shape here. Okay, so this shape is going to be used to remove from our shank to create that channel. So in order to remove this shape, we will want to offset our faces so that they're not coincident with the faces of our shank. If I just unblank this, you can see that we have our faces coincident on one another, meaning they are aligned with one another. Okay, and this can create issues when we are performing a combine remove. Okay, if we pick our shank as the base, the operator is this shape, combine remove, okay, it is failed. Rather, it hasn't failed, but it has not created that channel that we want. Okay, so let's undo that. Okay, so in order to do the combine remove successfully, we need to get rid of these coincident faces. And this is very easy to do. I blank out the shank again. We simply do a face offset. We just offset this face up a bit so that it is no longer coincident on our shank face. 0.75, that will be fine. Confirm the operation. Now we also want to offset these faces here, okay, because they were coincident to faces on our shank. Face offset. Okay, but we want to offset these a negative value. Okay, but it doesn't need to be a large number. We just need to offset a small amount so that we no longer have those coincident faces. Now we're also going to offset these end faces as well. Okay, now when picking these faces, you may not see them highlight when you hover the cursor over them, but left click on them anyway, and then you'll see the preview of that face offset. Okay, so sometimes if you don't see the preview when you hover your cursor over the entity, pick it anyway, it will likely work regardless. Okay, so here we have offsetted some faces so that we no longer have coincident faces with our ring shank. Okay, so now a combine remove will work fine. Like so, we have a channel. Okay, now prior to combine removing, we can add more modifications to our remove shape to influence the shape of the channel. So let's blank out this shape again, the shank. Now I want to add a chamfer to these edges so that when we perform a combine remove, it will add that same chamfer into the channel, forming what we call our bright cut. Okay, so let's say 0.25. Remember our channel depth was 0.3 millimeters. So 0.25 will create a nice bright cut for us. So let's unblank the shape. Okay, now we can replay our combine remove. There you go, you can see we have formed this chamfer on our remove in our channel, and that has created the bright cut there. Okay, so there you go, that is our channel. Okay, so we can change the color of this shank now. That combine remove is going to take on the color of the remove shape. Okay, and now we are able to pave on this surface. Okay, so we're going to be using our pave gems between two curves. Okay, I'm going to keep it as a white diamond. We pick our first curve, this edge, second curve, the opposite edge. This is our surface. Let's increase the number of stones. Let's spread them out. And even them out. Okay, these are looking quite nice. Let's give them a slight elevation. say 0.2 millimeters. Okay, we're going to confirm the operation. Okay, next up we can place our prongs. Gems and Settings tab, we'll use our scaled prongs, pick our stones as a feature, okay, and these actually look quite good. Might bring the distance down slightly so that the prongs aren't coincident with that edge there. Okay, and they look fine. I'll leave the rest of the values. Okay, we could take a look at our end prongs. Okay, they're not coming in so well. So we'll insert our prongs manually, or rather we'll just do a component replicate of our end prongs there. Okay, I'm not going to tweak these. Let's put in our end prongs. We come into our Tools and Cutters tab. We'll do a component replicate. Pick this prong as our seed. We're going to place it another one about there. Confirm the operation. Middle click. Let's replicate this one. Okay, confirm the operation. Now we'll use this mirror components command. Pick the datum, front datum, components, this one, this prong, pick the wrong one there, confirm the operation. Okay, there you go, we have our end prongs. Okay, so next up we need to use our cutters. We need to cut away material for our gemstones. Okay, and this time I'm going to use the elliptical cutters. Okay, this is quite a good one to use for rendering purposes because it will cut away a nice amount of material for our stones so that we have no material encroaching on our stones that can throw off a render of our design. So pick our stones as a feature. Let's take a look in the wireframe display mode. Okay, so we've got plenty of material cut out here, plenty of room for our stones. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and confirm the operation. We don't need to tweak, these are all coming in quite nicely. Perform a merge cutters. Pick our cutters. Select the base. Let's hide our melee stones. We can hide them, they are all assigned to this layer, the melee stones layer. So we can simply disable that layer to take a look at the cutter's performance. It seems decent. Okay, so now we can merge our prongs. Gems and Settings tab, merge prongs. We can pick our prongs as features. Okay, our base, the ring shank. Confirm the operation. Okay, it seems to have worked nicely. You can check by setting our entity filter onto shape, seeing if they all come in as one complete shape, and it does. Okay, so that merge has gone successfully. Okay, so that is our pave complete. Now we need to replicate it on the other side. Okay, we could have performed all of our operations and mirrored them. Okay, but a nice way to get the same result on the opposite side is to trim our shank to the side datum. So we're going to trim it right down the middle. Okay, and now we're simply going to pattern this side and our stones to the other side. Okay, so we'll use the pattern command. We could mirror our ring shank half and then mirror our components. Okay, but we have to do it in two parts. So the pattern will allow us to make this copy all in one go. So first we pick our ring shank half, then we can pick our stones. We're going to perform a rotate. On the y-axis, just want one copy. We've derived the spacing, confirm the operation. Okay, and there we have the other side. We can now combine, add the two halves of the shank to form one complete shank again. Save our work. Okay, and this is our ring pretty much completed now. I just want to add in a few fillets to take down the harshness of our edges. Okay, I think I'm going to bring down the top part of this setting as well. I'm going to perform a face offset on these two faces. Let's just bring it down a little. I reckon about there. Let's give it a nice number, -0.5 mm. Okay, the other side didn't go through. Let's redefine that operation. Okay, redefine causes a replay of history. Okay, I can see my issue. I picked the wrong face there. Okay, confirm the operation. Right, let's add in some fillets now. We'll fillet these edges. Okay, I can increase that a bit. Let's also add a fillet to these edges, our outside edges here, and we can use a quick chain pick to activate it by right clicking, left click on quick chain pick, it toggles it on. So now when we pick an edge, it's going to quick chain pick all of the connected edges to that edge. Okay, let's just drop this down to 0.3. We're not getting a preview at the top there because the fillet was too much, but 0.3 seems decent. Let's also do this to the other side. Okay, our quick chain pick, activate it again, confirm the operation. Save our work. Let's remove our template, our datums. Okay, let's play around with our face attributes a bit. Right click, face attributes. I often like to drop down the saturation of this gold color to make it a bit less yellowy. Okay, so I normally like to bring it down to around 150. Okay, let's add this color to our custom colors so that we can easily access it. Confirm the operation. Let's increase the shine. Drop this down to metallic. Confirm the operation. We'll check it out in a live render. Okay, it's not bad. Now a little tip for the live renderer is to add fillets, even small fillets, to our harsh edges. So on these simple designs we'll have edges such as this. Just add a small fillet to them, and this should improve our render. By small, I just mean 0.1. Okay, we can add this to, let's add it to these edges. Okay, so just a small fillet, but this can help improve our render because it breaks up those harsh edges. Okay, so we'll come in, drop in our live rendering studio. We'll merge it as a base. Let's move this. In fact, I'm just going to erase this face. Okay, sometimes it throws on a bit too much dark shadow anyway. So let's check this out in the live renderer. Okay, it looks pretty good. How about we play around with these faces? Okay, so I recommend coming in here and playing around yourself with the live renderer and the studio, because our face attributes, our rendering studio will all have an effect on how our live render appears, and we can improve it significantly by making a few simple adjustments. Okay, so I'm just going to soften up the lights from these faces. Again, how about we just move them in slightly as well. Okay, I moved this one a bit too far.